Hi all, welcome to the brand new episode of a new training session, which is primarily one of the most important and critical module of the human resource development, which is known as employee training and development. Obviously, in some cases, which is known as learning and development as well, because most of the organization has a separate department which is known as learning and development or L&D, and which is directly integrated and related with the human resource department, and obviously it has a huge impact of the performance management exercise of that organization. So if we start of describing the traditional and the modern approach of training and development, in case of the traditional approach, most of the organization believe that there are no leaders. You cannot you did not create any new leaders. There are born leaders. The managers cannot be created. The managers are born. So therefore, there is no need of any training. Whoever has that capability can work as a manager. Who doesn't have that capability cannot work as a manager. On the other hand, in the modern methodology, we can see that most of the organization now believe that yes, you can build the leadership within a person if you provide the proper training and the proper guidance to that particular person, which is primarily known as the leadership development or the MDP or management development program. Therefore, the training and development is one of the most important factor at this point of time to build the leadership of our organization, and as well as for the career planning, the performance management of an individual. Because if you are working with an organization for a long time, if you don't get any growth, obviously you would be demotivated. On the other hand, if you provide training, adequate amount of training and the appropriate training to that individual, it would be easier for that person to go for the next level, and which will not only motivate him but also help the organization to get someone from the existing resources for the newly created positions, and as well as for the higher leadership. Therefore, if we are considering different kind of reports and different kind of comments by different articles published by their journals and the newspapers, we will see that in future the most of the success of the enterprise will be primarily dependent on the training and development and learning and development exercise. So therefore, it's very important for us to emphasize on that a lot. Now, if we are talking about the definition of training, training is basically a systematic procedure for transferring technical or behavioral know-how to the employees so they can increase their knowledge and skills to perform in their job. Also, training is a process of alerting employees which is increase their probability to goal attainment. So we can differentiate the training into two categories. One is obviously the technical training, another one is obviously the behavioral and the attitude training. So there are primarily these two categories. Now, if we are talking about the definition, according to Edwin V. Filippo, training is the act of increasing knowledge and skill of an employee for doing a particular job. On the other hand, if we are considering the definition of Michael Armstrong, training is the systematic development of the knowledge, skills, and attitudes required by an individual to perform adequately of a given task or job. Now let us go to the next part of this, which is the features of the training. Training is basically enhances the skills and capabilities. The need for training can be emphasized in various work situations. It can be utilized to improve the skill sets in the existing job, or planning out for the future job profile for and elevating the employee performance, and so on. For training to be successful, the employee have to be convinced its utility and effectiveness. If you don't convince them about the utility of the training program, they may not participate in this properly. Also, successful training program improves the performance of an employee, which in turn actually enhance the organizational performance as well. Training program also should attempt to bring about positive changes in the knowledge, skill, and attitude of the workforce. Now, if we are talking about the training policy, because every organization, before implementing the training and development, should have a proper training policy, and according to that, all the initiatives has to be taken. So, the training policy includes the policy should depict the top management philosophy regarding the training of employees, because training development, whatever the process you are going to implement, it has to be according to the culture and the need of the organization. The training policy must include the rules, regulation, procedure, budget, standards, conditions regarding the training. Also, the policy depicts of the company to train and develop its personnel. It also provides guidelines for training programs. So, what are the things has to be followed during a training? What are the policies has to be followed? How it has to be integrated with the performance management? What are the different skill sets you are going to develop? What are the different plan you are going to follow? The entire things has to be included in the training policy. Now, if we are talking about the components of the training, which would be interesting because it is, it's a kind of, separate things according to the organizational needs. So it starts with the training policy, and then the top management supports and continuation has to be there. Different methods of training and courses should be implemented. Obviously, the next part you have to select the venue and duration of the training. Also, you have to create the training materials, the posters, the pictures, charts, graphics, and other equipments, which would be the value addition to the training, because without the proper preparation, you cannot really implement your training. And also the training procedure, including the feedback and the evaluation of the training, which will help you to improve the training, and also it will help you to understand how you can do something more. And also willingness of the trainee, so the trainee has to participate in the training properly, otherwise it cannot be successful. And obviously you need a trained professional trainer who will implement the training, because without a proper implementation, none of the training methodology can be successful. Now let us discuss about some important points regarding the do's and don'ts of the training. Now at first we will start with the do's of training. In the organization of employee, training and development is essential part of the planning activity. So the learning and growth can take place in the organization. Every employee should get the opportunity of training. It should not be based on favoritism. So there has to be a plan which way it has to be implemented to all the employees. There should be sufficient budget, because without a budget you cannot really implement a training and development program. And most important, it should be an endless activity for all, because learning is a continuous activity. There is no end to it. So it has to be a continuous activity. It should be structured and managed in such a way that learning takes place properly. And also its importance should be recognized and never be underestimated as sheer waste of time. The learner should be motivated, and from time to time review meetings should be measure the gain through the training and development schemes. Because if you don't understand the effectiveness and how it is helping your workforce, then you really will not be able to implement the training and development in future. So it's very important to understand the effectiveness of it. It should be evaluated in terms of practicality and acquiring of skills, usefulness in job, in terms of cost, time, and effectiveness of a change behavior. So it has to be measured as well properly as a part of the organizational effectiveness and also individual effectiveness as well. Now, what are the different purpose of the training program? Though we have discussed this earlier, but let us discuss about the most important points which will describe you the purpose of the training. Now, the number one, obviously, it helps to improve the performance of the employee, and it bridges the gap between the actual and the expected performance of the employee. So there can be, in a job role, there has to be certain expected task which should be implemented or done by the employee, but there must be some skill set which is not allowing him to perform. Therefore, the training has to be implemented, and a proper training can bridge the gaps. Updating employee skills to update any technological advance. Sometimes it might happen, therefore a technical advancement has come in the market. Some new technology has been there. So therefore the employee need to learn about this new technology. Also avoiding managerial obsolescence, creating an efficient and effective organization. It helps the organization to observe changes taking place in the environment and reduce resistance to change. Therefore, sometimes cultural training is also very important. So if any changes is happening in the organization, there will be always a resistance towards the change management procedure. The training helps the absorption of the new changes, so employee can easily adapt to the new changes, and therefore there will be no much protest against the new change. Also, it helps to create a pool of readily available adequate replacement of a personnel. So therefore, for any other skill set, if you are developing a particular workforce, if there are any critical resource is leaving and there are no one available in the market, you can readily get a pool of resource from your organization which can be or who can be utilized for that particular position. Also, it helps to build a more efficient and effective and highly motivated team, because they can see, yes, this is my career plan, this is the different things are available to me, I can learn different new technologies, I can develop myself as a leader, as a manager, supervisor, and also if I learn those things, these are the things that can happen with me by different examples or the career paths created by the organization, so which will motivate them a lot. Also, it ensures adequate human resource for expansion into new programs. Now let us talk about the training benefits. Now benefits to the organization, it improves profit, it improves productivity, it reduces turnover, it increased efficiency resulting in financial gains, discuss needs of supervision. So it for therefore, if you are giving a training to a person as a leadership, so the person will require less amount of supervision to work in future. So which is definitely going to reduce your cost for managing the person, and also the supervision, and also different kind of reviews. Helps effective decision making and problem solving, which is very critical for different kind of purpose. And also it helps to create a better corporate image, helps keep costs down in many areas. Now, if we are talking about benefits to the individual, it develops a sense of growth and learning, which so it helps you to improve your skills, to learn different kind of new things. Also, it minimizes stress, tension, frustration, and conflict, because if you are learning different new things, frustration and depression will come not that much frequently. It helps to achieve self-development and self-confidence as well if it is a behavioral training. Also, it helps in making better decision, effective problem solving, because most of the time people are confused to take a proper decision. The training can help them to do that. Recognize qualification, and also it helps to build their CV. So as an individual, they would be a better professional by means of training and development initiative. Now let us discuss about the different training methods can be implemented, can be used to impart the training in an organization. At first, we'll talk about the on-the-job training, because most of the cases it might happen an organization is so much tied up, and individuals are so much tied up in an organization, they cannot really spend much of a time for classroom training or any particular dedicated training session. But on-the-job training program always can happen. So there are different methodologies that can be followed in case of on-the-job training, which is job rotation, like performing or working in different kinds of jobs which requires different skill set. So by doing that, they will learn different new skill set. The coaching is basically someone as a supervisor, someone as a mentor will help them to learn. Action learning is by assigning different small projects they can learn it. Apprenticeships is basically applicable for the interns or for the freshers who will learn different new things by doing that job. Obviously it starts from a very basic level. And internship and different assistantship, which is very similar to the apprenticeship as well. Now, what are the advantages of the on-the-job training and disadvantages as well? Advantages are it's directly related to the context of the job. It's most effective because it's learning by experience, and you really do not require much extra time for the classroom training. It is very less expensive. Also, trainees are highly motivated because they are able to do different new jobs. It is free from artificial classroom situation, as I have described earlier. But the disadvantages are trainer may not be experienced enough to train. It is systematically organized. Sometimes it may happen, the things are not happening properly. They are also doing the job, but they are not able to learn it properly. So no one is there to evaluate that. So that's the primary problem which can cause the failure of this particular initiative. Now, if we're talking about coaching, there the trainee works directly with a senior manager of the person, or he has he to replace. It may involve simply acquiring skills by simply observing or first show, then make the trainee to do the job. Action learning is give the managers a chance to work on solve problem in the department by their own. The basic includes carefully selected a team of 5 or 10 people, so they will work on a particular project by utilizing different new skill sets. So this is apart from their day-to-day work, they work in a specialized project. Now, apprenticeship is, as I have mentioned, is basically for the fresh graduates and also for experienced employee to learn the function of their job. Now, off-the-job training. Various kind of off-the-job training methodologies are there, and that's basically talking about the classroom training where you will learn something apart from your day-to-day job. Now, what are the advantages of the on-the-job training? Trainers are usually experienced and enough to train. It is this kind of training. It is very systematically organized. Also, efficiency created programs may add a lot of value. So, therefore, you can learn a different new skills in a particular classroom, which will help, which is free from your day-to-day job and any other responsibilities. But there are some disadvantages as well. It's not based on experience. It's definitely very expensive and time consuming, and trainees may not be motivated if they cannot understand the it is very definitely very expensive and time consuming, and trainees may not be highly motivated if they cannot understand the importance of it. Now, let me explain about different kinds of off-the-job training methodologies. One is obviously the lecture. This approach is very conventional in nature, and this approach is widely based used for helping the employees understand the procedure, policies of an organization. This method works well when mode interactive and audio visual are used, because when lecture mode, most of the cases that it is not very interactive, the audio visual mode has to be used properly. The next one is lectures with demonstration. This method is basically the visual display of how something works, how this is happening. So basically a demo of a product or some video shows which example trainer shows the trainee how to perform or how to do the task of the job. Helps focusing their attention on critical aspects of the task. Now the next one is lectures with discussion. It is very interactive in nature, so their method uses a lecture to provide the learners with context is supported, elaborated, explained and expanded. Discussion happen on a discussion method is a two-way flow of communication. So knowledge in the form of lecture is communicated to the trainees, and then once again the understanding is conveyed back by the trainees to the trainer. So that is a two-way communication, and so it's very interactive in nature. Therefore it helps to understand both the ways. Simulation. In this method, the trainee is exposed to an artificial work situation that closely resembles the actual work situation. So basically it's a kind of demo situation where they will perform and do the similar kind of work, but on the other hand they will not really do the actual job. It includes case studies, role play, sensitivity training, different sorts of activities. Now let's discuss about the role plays. Role plays basically create a realistic situation and have the trainees assume the parts of the role play. So they will actually work like those responsibilities, take those responsibilities, not doing the actual work. So they have to be described about the role and the concerns, the objectives and the responsibilities, and then we need to think about the outcome. So this will give them an opportunity to actually work in a similar kind of situation. Now the next one is a sensitivity training. This is more from point of view behavioral assessment. So it is under different circumstances how an individual react, which will help us to understand. The advantage is increased ability to empathize, listening skills, openness, tolerance. Disadvantages, participant may resort to their old habits after the training. So they will show some positive things during the training, but once the training is over, they may go back to their earlier behavior. Now, computer-based training or online training is nowadays the most successful and widely spread training because it is less time consuming and also provided the training to employees through internet on internet, so it does not require any face-to-face interaction. And the most important thing, it consists text and graphics, and also it is very closely related information. Typically the information stores in a chunk, so you can read it again and again. It's not a one-time training, and if they successfully clear the test, they can move to the next chunk. So it's a very systematic, very organized, and also this doesn't require much of a time, so it can be used repeatedly. Now, what are the benefits of CBT? Obviously, it provides the instructional consistency, reduce the trainee learning time, increase access of training, and also afford privacy of learning, allows learners at an individual pace. So whenever you are available, whenever you are free to do that, you can do it. Allow the trainee to master learning, and most important, reduce the cost of the training because it is repetitive. You can use it again and again. Now let us talk about the training evaluation. Training evaluation is one of the most important factor, because without a proper evaluation, a training cannot be successful. You cannot really improve and you cannot really understand how it is helping your organization. So the process of examining a training program is called a training evaluation. Training evaluation ensures that whether candidates are able to implement their training in their respective workplaces or to regular work routines. Now, what is the purpose of training evaluation? Obviously, it helps you to control the training program, because if the training is not effective, you should not continue it. Feedback. It helps to give the feedback to candidate and objectives linking to the learning outcomes, which is helping the organization to improve the training program in future. Also, it helps in research, and also in intervention. It helps in research of future. Also, intervention means it helps in determining that whether So the instance research, and also it helps in intervention, it helps in determining that whether the actual outcomes are aligned with the expected outcomes. So therefore we can really compare what exactly is happening after the training program. Now there are various methods of training evaluation. Number one is observation. Number two is questionnaire. Number three is interview, self diaries, recording specific incidents. Observation means you can evaluate the performance of a particular individual after the training and before the training, compare it. Prepare a questionnaire or a test to understand the knowledge and the understanding level increase of an employee after the training. Also, you can take a specific interview to understand how the training helps the individual to improve himself. Self diaries are maintaining, the different kinds of learning and different things they are doing. And recording of specific incidents, you can record a specific incident which has been done by the employee after imparting the training. Now let us talk about the most important thing of a training program, which is known as MDP or management development. It's generally agreed that the management development refers to the process by which individuals improve their capability and learn to perform effectively in managerial roles. So therefore, you do not need to hire any manager from the outside of the organization. You are basically not only creating the managers within the organization but also giving them an opportunity to grow, because they are already aware about the policies of the organization, the expectation, the culture, and different products and procedure of the organization, which will reduce your time to hire from someone outside and again impart all those information or inform all those things to that particular individual. Only thing you need to develop, that's a managerial and leadership role within your existing workforce. Now, management development program purpose is creating and enhancing the competencies of the managers and the potential managers. So it's not only improving the potential of the existing managers but also creating the potential managers. It's basically a planned process focusing on a long-term methodology, and also it is sometimes known as succession planning, capability building kind of things, and also it is informal and sometimes unplanned also. So it is like can be done by using your day-to-day activity and also develop their knowledge and skills to meet the organizational needs. So it's a very important part to grow our organization and also to create a proper hierarchy structure of the organization and a proper management team. So that's all as of now. Thanks a lot for listening to this. Obviously, we'll come up with a new module very soon, which would be obviously related to the human resource and other factors. So thanks again to all of you, and follow us in the Human and Emotions page blog and the Facebook page. Thanks.